So here we have a 2012 Volkswagen Golf Mark 6, and it's got a gearbox issue, which means it's got a flashing gear indicator on the dashboard. We think it's the DQ200 mechatronic unit, which has a failed accumulator. So over here we've got our new accumulator. It came from mechatronic, which comes with the replacement piece that we're going to put inside the mechatronic unit. Also got our full synthetic DSG fluid and some coolant, just in case we need to remove a lower hose to get to that thing. Anyway, we're going to jack the car up now and get started. Alright, so our car's now in the air, and we've disconnected our negative terminal there. We're just getting under the car now and removing the plastic sheet that protects everything. So it looks like there's 4 screws on that side, and perhaps, yep, 4 screws on this side. Look like they're the torque type heads. So we'll get onto that now. Okay, so we've removed this pipe, which was actually something to do with the turbo, I'd say, with the air intake. So it didn't have any actually fluids come out of it, and it was quite simple. There was a little clippy thing on this side that came off easily, and just a regular screw clamp on that side. So that's all done. Now we can see a bit clearer what we're removing. So clue, gotta find a Torx for that one, so we'll see what size that is. I forgot to mention to drain the oil using a 4mm Allen key in that plug there to release the transmission fluid before we undo any of the bolts. So we've taken a whole bunch of screws out of our unit. They were T40s just fitted in these corner ones. There's a couple of 10mm, and there's a couple of T30, Torx T30s as well. But now we can't reach up the top anymore, so we're going to go up the top and remove the air box to see if we can actually get some more space down in this way to actually access what we need. So we're going to start by removing this air filter here, undo these Torx around here, lift this out, and see how we go. So on removing the air box, I discovered that this little thing here has to come off. So this pretty much just pops off pretty easy with these clips. These clips on the side here, that goes out of the way. On the side here, there's some little like things you have to dig into to get it kind of out of there, and once that pulls out of there, it's got these little clips on it. See those things? They were just in that slot there. And now we just pull it out, and that gives us a bit more room to actually get this air box out, so you can see it's already on the wobbles. Okay, that was a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. So there was a tube on the side. This tube here was plugged into this slot here. This tube, this slot. I just used a screwdriver to pry it out from that end. And then there was a bolt down in this side, had to be pulled out. And down on this side, there's this little rubber thing here, this thing. And you just give it lots of force and pull it out. And oh, she comes out of the way. And look, we can now see the rest of our screws we need to get out. So yay, that's a win. Alright, so we got all those bolts out, and as you can see, it's now loose, and we're getting our first glimpse of our broken accumulator. So now we just got to make room to get the cover off and get in there and get our new one in. So we're able to get that cover off. We actually had to pull the engine back a bit, give us a bit more room, and then we sort of went around this way, so it kind of covers on there like that. We kind of had to go off around this way to get it out and out through this space. Now we're trying to get that, is the actual broken part there, so we're trying to get that out. So far I've been able to turn a little bit with my hands, but it's not moving very fast. And I don't actually have a big enough Torx head to go in the end of that, so we're just going to try and use the big multi-grips and see how that goes. Here's the big multi-grips, just wrapping around that, and it's moving quite easily. I just can't hold the camera and do both. Let me give this a try. There we go. Here we go, and look, we can see it moves relatively easily. Don't know how long I'm going to be this for. A while by the feels of it. Okay, so we got our bits out. We went in and got those screws out next, and we fitted our ring. So our ring is fitted with those 3 screws back in there. So I'll just try and get some video of the actual screws. So there's the screws back in, and you can see that the lip for our new ring is in there, and we just got our accumulator to get in. so that just needs to be screwed in. I've put on some rubber gloves because it's a bit oily when it came out of the packet, and it's heavy and I don't want to drop it. Okay, so that took a little bit of fiddling to get it to finally start, but it started. So now it's just a matter of screwing that in until it's tightish. Then we'll use the cool tool that they sent with it to tighten it up properly. So I think that's that. Here's our tool, it's got this lug. Alright, so we've got our bit all in. The tool that came with the thing is completely useless for actually installing this while it's on the car, because there's no actual room to move this around, and because you've got to get this little thing in the, I think you can see it just there, there's the little lug that has to go in, and there's no actual room to move this, and that lug does not move around, so it didn't actually work to install on the car. So we went with the old multi-grips back on there, exactly the opposite way to what we do. So now that we've got the car back together, it's time to try and get this thing back on. So we're going to try and do the opposite of what we did, taking it off and just try and angle it on whichever way we get it to fit. This actual unit is a bit smaller than the one we took out, so hopefully it means it's a bit easier to get this tray back on. Alright, so we've got all of our bolts back into our casing and got our bracket back on, and that is not an easy thing to do while the transmission is still connected to the car. What we've done here is remove the negative or positive, whatever one of those cables is, from the starter motor, so we can actually access over here the breather. And now we've got a corking plastic thing attached to the end of our oil, and just feeding the oil into the system now. So I've put our 1 litre of oil in, and now we're under the car trying to get the engine mount back together, which is just here, this bolt, and that one we took out. As you can see, I've used a bit of a clamp off the cross member there onto the bottom of the engine here. Just clamped it out a bit to actually get those to line up. Got them perfect, went in real easy. Now we're just going to take that off and engine back in place. Now we just got this tube to put back on from the turbo to the air intake, and then we'll put the pan back on. So no leaks, which is good for our oil once we've repaired it. So let's see how we go. So we're finished down the bottom. We just forgot to put on the thing at the bottom. Now we're just going to put the airbox on, that bit over there, back in this space, just remembering there's nothing else we've got to do up here before we do that. I think that's about right, so let's go. So we've got our airbox back in, we've got our screw back down in there, we've pushed that back on nice and tight on that side. It's all in there again. We've put our clamp back on. We've also reconnected our battery, and we are ready to go for a drive and see how it went. So the car's all back together, and we've taken it for a test drive, and we've had no troubles with the selecting of the gears or the changing of the gears. In fact, it's a little bit smoother. So it looks like it's been a successful repair.